What's going on, everybody? Welcome in 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. We're going to do something completely different today. I've been getting a lot of messages and emails, texts about GA4. It seems maybe not everyone was as prepared as they should be, I guess. It's not like this is new news to all of us here getting started. So with July right around the corner, I thought what I would do is kind of give you a peek into what I actually do for a living. I know it's another question I get asked a lot in my DMs. Reality is we're going to show you today. I'm going to use my trusty tablet here. This is the machine. On the machine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in. As we jump into what we're doing on the screen here, we're going to be recording what goes on the screen. We're going to see how this can kind of come out and play to you folks. But it's something that's important to me because there's been a lot of, what are we going to do? How is this going to work? What's changed? And the reality is there's really nothing much different here, okay? They put some reports in different places. They made some things easier to dive into. So let's just do it, all right? What we're going to do is we're going to get started by going into, I like to go into reports. I like to go into user acquisition. It is the most comfortable area for everyone to enter into, that everyone is familiar with regards to that. So that's always going to be where I start. And frankly, I don't go many other places. As a matter of fact, I think what you'll find is that I tend to not really do anything different than what I did before. All we did was add a few different tile lines here. So first thing I'll tell you is beginning with your date ranges, okay, which can be a real hassle in GA4. If you're someone who looks at multiple accounts like I do, you'll find that account just continually turns over. Every time you turn the account over, you have to adjust the date range. So here's what I'll tell you to do. Don't forget, always hit your May 1st. In this case, I'm looking at month over month data. If you have year over year GA data, GA4 data, I would be a little reticent to look at that. I would really be focused on the month over month. Now, a weird thing that happens when you hit the compare button, it automatically populates you to the top. So for all of you, to avoid any frustration, this could be just on mobile devices, which is what I'm running on here. I go ahead, I hit my comparable, I hit my apply, right? And then I wait for my data population. It takes a little bit longer in today's world than it did previously. A lot more data here. So this is a client account, obviously. They've been crossed out for the sake of their privacy, but have authorized the use of it. So what's new? Well, they've used the word engagement ad nauseum, right? So we've gotten rid of bounce rate and we've made it more fun and exciting with engagement rate. You see here 83%. Right now it looks like automotive speaking. I'm going to set the benchmark at 75%. To begin with, because I've seen it at 90, I've seen it at 60, so I feel like somewhere about 75 is the right place, but it's always going to be varying, and we'll get into what really matters about that, because engagement is fueled by events. And then if we go this, we have to, unfortunately, one of the flaws here on the mobile side is to get to your actual conversion data, you may have to go over. So conversion data here, there is a long list of things that can trigger an engagement part of the metric. So what I'll tell you is just be careful how many you have events and conversions set up, because each one counts as something. So everything that we're scrolling and we're looking through, and you'll see the event count stuff, I mean, it gets like crazy out of control with like just the most minutia details, which frankly, I just don't see much value right now. That's me. I could be wrong, but that's what I see right now. So when I look through here, one of the things that stands out, obviously, are the brand new networks that they've given us, right? So they've given us cross-network, right? Cross-network tracking is that of how they're going to justify performance max, frankly. People jumping around through different ad spaces within Google. I think theoretically and ultimately it would be about anyone who touched multiple ads, so display, PPC, VLA, all the fun acronyms that we all know and love. So cross-network could be a part of that as well. Again, looking at here, if we just take our time, everything, new users, it's all right there. So nothing's changed from the original UA. So you don't have to worry as much. Like I said, they just added some more channel data here for you. So paid other, that's a new one. So if you use like VIN-based products, they'll show up here. Paid search is there, right? As you'd always imagine. Display, paid video, that's a fun one. I think the most fun you'll have to look at is organic social. Here's what I'll tell you. Just make sure that your vendor is dialed in to the channel of organic social, because it's important. You know what I mean? It's important that you keep your vendor in the paid social element. There is room for it. put them there as a channel in GA4 so that you can keep this organic social clean, because to me, it's one of the highlights I've been bitching about for years to get going here, that in video, to see it. There's a lot of other channels as well. Shit, I think there's like 20 now with Google. It's a long list of things here with what counts, what doesn't count, how people measure it. So to me, what I would say to you is to make sure you're tracking still what's important to you, looking at what's important to you. And to me, you see those conversions for me have never changed. So what's cool right now, to me, is that in a click of a button, right, much like anything else, you can go ahead and you can take a deeper dive into your source medium part of the report. Again, all in one place. It's a little bit nicer than the original reporting. As I said, load time's a little slow. I'm on business grade internet. Yeah, I'm on a mobile device, but still. So what we have here is all the things we're used to seeing, all the companies we're used to seeing, right? That's the good news there. That's what I'm after. The next layer of this that I think is, again, touch of the button, cool, without overdoing it, and this is at the depth of which I'm willing to go, is as I would click here and I would put in a first user campaign metric and give that a second to populate and see attached to my source mediums which part of the actual campaigns drove it. Now check that out, right? Top of the list is going to be VLAs. Now, it's a paid search medium with a VLA campaign. This is important because obviously we're triggering the value of these campaigns, right? So you go over here and you see the campaign value down 6% in conversion. But what do you think is really driving this number, right? I mean, it's going to be what you would imagine it always is. So let's begin to see with our new car VDP number, right? What's happened to it by campaign? How has it improved, decreased? It's down 5%. VLAs for new only transitioned 32 of them. Now, a lot of search eyeballs come through there. Organic, direct, a VIN-specific tool, retargeting tool, a little bit of used general. Look how nice and clean the campaigns are set up, though. Intelligent Facebook campaigns. This will give you YouTube pre-roll, right? So now we're getting to a place where, this is probably like a paid video element, right? If I wanted to get like super technical and in the weeds, that's likely what that should be registered at as opposed to a paid search medium. But this is all going to be something that as we run through this, we get on the fly, we kind of see what changes over time, right? So like we had goals set up a long time ago and then found out that those goals could be set up differently. And so we went and had to add it, but deleting is not a thing. So you've got to add a different layer. So you go through all those things. As we move through it here on the used car side, same thing. Look at this. Look at this VLA number here, folks. 4,600 VDP count against a VLA number. Now, I think there's a little bit more inflation with VDP counts under the GA4 look than anyone else. So that's kind of why, that doesn't necessarily surprise me or concern me. But I mean, from a dollar perspective here, people, this client is actually at like a 60-cent cost per click, which in my world, anyone asking on VLAs is just cost per VDP because that's where it better lands you, right? 95% of the time. So that number, 60 cents, is pretty solid. But however, what you need to always be tracking, who else contributes, who else doesn't. You see a lot of people down, but VLAs are up. So there's some good news to me on that end because obviously this particular client's getting out in front of it. Now, you guys and gals are going to wonder, what do we do with conversion of website form submissions? Well, we show them here. It's 81, right? So that's how it lines up on this particular client for that. That is down 1%, a couple calls from VLA, the majority of the activity coming from organic. Notice you need to look at when you talk about organic, you talk about the rest of the stuff, is when you look at engagement rate, right? 96, 82. That's what we're after, 90, 95. Now, what will you see here? A general campaign with a 55. Okay, that balances out as long as we have others in the campaign. This is a new at 62, a pre-roll at 58, which is a little bit less than the previous month. Don't forget, just because your YouTube played down doesn't necessarily mean it's your advertiser. Could be your content. If you've been running the same content, it's definitely your content, all right, to go with that. So that's, again, this is who helps, fill the funnel for phone calls, how they get there. You don't see a ton from things like pre-roll. But then, again, folks, nothing has changed here. All we've done is we've added in the engagement metric, and that's what I would tell you. Track your new users, track your engagement rate. Don't get too far down the funnel on the rest of it because it's not really going to matter. So that was form fills. I think I may have said calls before, but That is form fills. When we look at the number of calls, I'm going to tell you guys something I'm doing a little differently here. On my end, I am going to be dealing in, so there are 83 of the calls on here. Now, this is the good way to double check all of that stuff is if you have call tracking software. Always try to butt those two numbers up against each other to see how close you get. In no way am I looking for an exact science, but if I show 80, your call tracking shows 140, we have a tracking issue. If I show 80, you show 30, I have a tracking issue. So it's all about making sure that we're diving into where we can to validate. Only so much can be done at an exterior level, I believe. I believe it does take that extra layer of understanding to really work into the data from that perspective. So, but what I'm doing now is I'm taking the 83, right? I'm dividing that straight in to the 14,708 engaged session number to get me my phone call click rate. I'll say it again, number of phone calls divided by engaged sessions. Now, the reason I do that is because the old call metric that Google used to basically, they used to track a conversion metric right in here before we had double events and before we had this here, before we had events and conversions, right? Before we had that, we just had conversions. And here was the actual conversion percentage. When we had the percentage, we were able to see things, immediately like phone call conversion, right? The math on phone call conversion, for those of you who don't know, is the number of calls divided by the number of sessions. So if that's the case, if that's the old way of looking at it, the new way to me is engaged sessions, and that will give you your call metric. Now you may notice in some cases that number is much higher than you're used to experiencing, which is good. Let's set a new bar. Let's set new standards for ourselves, right? We're worried about the 1% of phone calls. Now it's more like 3% of phone calls, but that's because of how it's being tracked, and that to me makes more sense in today's world. So, again, my favorite part of this whole thing is to deep dive this. Now, I will say this. I've been making a joke to friends that I would challenge anyone who believes that they need 14 custom reports to get through things, that I will end up as the same place you will with 14 reports in half the time and half the clicks. Just be careful you don't start going crazy and worrying about things that you hadn't worried about before just because they're in front of you. And I know it sounds like this guy doesn't want to change, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, to be honest with you, I hate change because consistency is what rules the world. It's what gets things done day in and day out. Do the same thing here. Again, you have plenty of places if you desired. If you were like, gosh, I just want to go and do and see more, you can do and go and see more. You can go into your engagement metric. You can go look at your overview stats, right? You can do all these things in one place and dive in. Yeah, data takes a second to fill, okay? But it's all here for you in a different way. The number of event counts here, cool. Views by pages, again, if you care, right? Make sure we, get all that sort of crossed out by my editing team there. But yeah, as we go through that, that's what you look at. You see your events. It's right. It's all what you need. If you want to go look at individual conversions and you say, I don't really care about events. Oh my God, it's annoying. Okay, cool. Then go look at conversions. And the event metric is a big one. And it's a big one for maybe other advertisers, but certainly not for the majority of car dealers that are going to log into this system, are going to still be looking for their very, very basic conversions. And that's what they should be. And here they are summed up for you once again by the highs, the lows, the mediums, and the nothings. All right? It's all right there. One report, see what's triggered, see what has it, right? You can go in here, you can add things. Look at that. Look at this, right? You can go and reverse shit all you want. It's a matter of comfortability. That's what I want everyone to keep in mind. Doing what you're comfortable with will make the most difference. And again, nothing there is really going to change out because it's going to look very similar to what you would have seen with a lot of traffic from direct. Remember, still Google's junk drawer, and Google's junk drawer is only getting more messy right now as they transition into GA4. All right, that's enough, right? We've seen it, we've done it, we're happy with it. What I would say is that as we start to not worry about the transition, because it's already here and it's happened, it's July, my goodness. Take a breath, go in there and start to do exactly as I showed you. Look at your users, look at your new users. If you want to click the tab below into traffic, you can do that. It's right here for you. It's not. Traffic acquisition is only going to change one thing, people. All right? All it's going to change once it loads, because again, the system is a bit, we're not going to say buggy. We're going to say boggy is the way to say it. All right? you get into this and you start to see things kind of spin a little bit out of control, right? All of a sudden, paid shopping, which paid shopping is what they're considering VLAs. Do you know what's interesting about that? This is the problem with it, right? This is the initial, let's go back to this really fast. This is a bit of a problem for me from a session traffic perspective, because paid shopping is a new channel that is being introduced as if it were a click from a shopping place like an Amazon or an eBay. But the reality of paid shopping is, because you have to use Merchant Center to set up your VLA feed, that's what you are now, paid shopping. Interesting. There are many more channels. Be sure to check them out. It's simply Google GA4 channels and you'll get the entire list that you need. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun. I've never done anything like this before. I've certainly never shown anyone my telestration skills, where I go on, I give clients smiley faces, and I tell them how great they are. We draw stars, give them the A+ right on the screen, right? That's the kind of fun we can have. I hope you're having the same amount of fun. Have yourselves a great week. And remember, if you ever need help, I'm not more than a click away. All right? Thanks a lot. Have a great day.